Hello and welcome back to Unfolded, the podcast from HARVEY Maps. My name is Adam and today we're continuing our look at the map making process here at HARVEY Maps. Today's episode is episode 4 and it's called Where is the Pub? Decoding Map Symbols. And to help me do this is my colleague Luke.
Hello, hello.
Good to see you.
Likewise.
Take a seat in the hot seats.
Thank you.
We're going to have a look at map symbols specifically. And there's all sorts of symbols on a map, and we'll come to that, obviously. But part of my joy when I go for a hike is pretty much wanting to know where the pub is at the end.
It's a good.
If you're going to invest 8 hours in something, it's nice to kind of find the fire, have a pint, and talk about it at the end.
Absolutely.
I think you're in agreement with that.
Yes.
I've got a few notes to guide me along the way. So, but we've already looked at, so in episode 1 and 2, we looked at some of the history, and we looked at how map making is an art. And episode 3, we talked about photogrammetry. I'm not going to go over that now if anyone wants to. Episode 3, you can go online and have a listen. But tell me about your role here at HARVEY Maps then.
I'm a cartographer. I've been here approaching 4 years now.
Have you 4 years? Yeah.
It's flying by.
Yeah.
And essentially, Douglas or Pete, the photogrammetrist from episode 3, send me their data of everything they've plotted, and essentially I colour it in, make it readable, and make it ready for the printers.
You do. We had a friend of yours who used to work here called Lewis. He described himself as colouring in for a living, as I recall. That was he was a cartographer here. I joined as a cartographer, so I'm hopeful that we're going to know what we're talking about in this chat.
Touch wood.
Touch wood, yes, please do. How did you get into maps? Have you always liked maps?
Yes, yeah. So I've always enjoyed the world and geography. I think very, very early on I decided that's what I wanted to do at uni. I did undergraduate in geography, and then by far my favourite course in the whole thing was a cartography course.
Right.
It was cartography and GIS. There was a heavy skew on GIS. I didn't really know that cartography was a sort of feasible direction you could go down until this one class. And then just going through looking for masters, I found this one masters, and it was me in a nutshell. So it was perfect.
How many maps have you got? You're a map fan. I know you're a map.
I am a map
geek.
Every time I go somewhere new, I like to come away with a map if I can.
Yeah, me too.
Urban or remote, or urban or rural.
Yeah.
God, I couldn't put a number on it though, but I've got a big basket which is overflowing a wee bit. Yeah. So.
Yeah. I'm very much the same, Luke. I always go away and try and find the local bookshop or a newspaper shop and try and find the HARVEY Map equivalent is my thing.
Yes, I agree, because then you get to see all the different styles and different approaches.
Yeah. And I get to see how they show their pubs on their map. Even if they do, and I know some countries I can't. Some countries I think of, I can't see a pub symbol on a map.
It's concerning. You get to learn what pub is in various languages as well. So it's
that is exactly much needed. I'm going to mention as well. You are a HARVEY by name.
I am. Yeah. Pure coincidence.
Pure coincidence. We're going to put that out right now. Not related, but. It is.
Yeah, I am a HARVEY, but not a HARVEY.
It's good to have a HARVEY in the building.
I would phrase it.
Given that you're responsible for the cartographic output here, what's your favourite part of this particular job? Because it's very specialist and quite niche. I'm sure many people come up to you and say, "Oh, I've never met a cartographer."
Well, yeah, you get that a few times. My favourite part. I've got two. I like watching the map slowly build. So that's kind of in the very primitive stages where you're colouring everything in, making the water blue, woodland green, etc. Immediately, then you get a very quick overview of what the map's going to look like. Obviously, there's still a lot of work that goes into that, but very quickly you see it slowly build in front of your eyes, which I think is really good fun. And then the other favourite bit is delivery day, and you crack open the box.
It's like Christmas.
It is. And you've got, I don't know, 3,000 of the same present. but they're all, I don't know, like box fresh and
smell just out the printers.
It's like Moss in the calendar episode of IT Crowds.
Oh,
where he sniffs it and goes, box fresh. So I'm a bit like that in that regard. So seeing the final product.
Yeah, no, I think that's really nice, and we're very fortunate here that we get to see these products come into fruition. Because if we were, say, more focused on a digital product or something else, you don't quite get that box opening moment. Not you do, but not quite in the same. In the same vein. So I've always, I always like to see all that hard work that goes in, kind of being able to hold it and say, that's got.
I did that.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. We get to see all the steps in the whole process.
Yeah.
Like it's drawn in one corner of the room, it's edited in the other, and then at the end we all hover around a box looking at it.
Another corner.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah. So, where is the pub?
Well, not in Doon.
That's true. That's true. We're a bit. For those that don't know, we have our offices in central Scotland, and there used to be quite a few pubs in the village of Doon, but not so many anymore. But
yeah,
we've called it tongue in cheek, "Where is the pub?" But really, we're talking about symbols, and I'm going to start with the basic question. I suppose there's even one. When someone says to you map symbol, what do you think? What comes to mind? How would you explain map symbol?
I think of a point symbol of like a little icon or symbol, of a pub or cafe. I feel like they're the most common ones on maps, or parking.
So it's basically something to replace a word.
Yeah, a visual replacement.
Yeah. I remember, I think on a previous episode, I said when I was a kid, I opened up my first map and realised that I could decode it, or with a bit of training, I could decode what was going on. Excuse me. I could tell that green things meant vegetation and blue things meant water bits. And the other stuff maybe I learnt as I got older and older. So I suppose, the map is just made up of symbols. So it is about how we decode it.
All it is symbols.
All it is symbols. There you go. That's our takeaway. All it is symbols. Yeah. If only someone had told me that at the start.
It's more symbols than a drum shop.
So that's very good. It almost passed me by, but I've worked with Luke for 4 years now, and I know these jokes are very, very close to coming out. I'm expecting a few more. More symbols than a drum shop. Love it. It leads me right into then what makes a good symbol. In the drum shop or anywhere, preferably on a map.
A symbol is a sort of associated image as opposed to an icon. So a symbol would be, you would need, colour is probably the main thing, but there's many visual variables you can use. A symbol is just an easy association to the thing it's trying to represent. So, for example, a pub, you might have a pint glass, or we use like a tankard with a handle. Because that's a kind of glass that you would get in a pub, or you wouldn't be out of place in a pub. But I suppose
as opposed to a teacup.
Yes, which is our cafe.
Yeah. Sometimes we get asked, I sometimes get asked, can you just, people are very curious about maps. It's like, well, how do you create symbol? Who decides what a symbol should be? Because it kind of feels like a very permanent thing. You've made the symbol and it's going to go on, as you said, 3,000 copies coming out of the boxes, and people should interpret that. If we had a process at Harvey Map, I can't believe we don't make a new symbol every week, but how do you think that would work here? How does it go about at Harvey Maps?
Well, it's just coming up with a visual word, and whoever is kind of tasked with the job. It's very rare that we have a new symbol. These times we've kind of got an established list, but if there is the need for a new one, I think someone would just give it a bit of thought. What is an obvious connection to whatever they're representing? They'll propose it, and just like our maps, people would check it, throw in their feedback, and then it may get tweaked or not. It needs to be simple. It needs to be clear.
Very much team effort, really, at
Yeah,
Harvey's in terms of how we do it. You were telling me earlier about a map you're working on now.
Yes.
You've got a few symbols you're working on. What?
I'm working on an active travel map of Clackmannanshire, which is a small county, or the wee county.
Wee county.
Just just at the east of Stirling. And part of it, as it's not our core range, it's a custom map.
Yeah.
So they've requested having symbols, skate parks. What else have they got? Like a journey hub, like a sort of tourist information, but more specifically active travel. So these are symbols that we don't really have in our sort of standard repertoire. So we've needed to create.
Not many skate parks on Ben Nevis, for instance. Yeah.
So
not yet, anyway.
I've had fun creating some symbols for them.
So have you talk me through like one of those? Have you how did you start the process of, say, what was it? The skate park, I imagine, is a skateboard or something similar.
Yes.
A journey hub.
Yeah.
How do you that's quite an interesting thought process. So is it a rectangular symbol or square symbol?
It's a square. There was a bit of liaising with the client, but I think we've settled on, and it's very very unexciting, but it's just a blue square a la tourist information or parking with a P or an I. It's just JH in a blue square.
Okay.
Because once you've read the connection on the legend, or even without disregarding the legend, I think JH, it's an easy connection you can keep without. Visually, I can't picture a journey hub in my head.
Well, exactly. So, that's why I was just. How do you even decide that?
Yes, but keeping it simple with a box and some initials.
You've segued nicely onto the legend, actually. So, some people call it a key, some people call it a legend. For all intents and purposes, the same thing. How important is the legend?
It's important in which it should be there for reference. I'm a believer that the legend is supplementary. It's not crucial. I mean, it's crucial that it's there for the reference, but a good map shouldn't require too much heavy lifting from the legend.
Yes.
I think the map should be inferable just with the map. If there's some confusion or what's that symbol, then refer. But you should get a fairly good picture of the ground.
So this comes
straight on.
All about the communication of what we're trying to do and the skill in relaying kind of almost abstract information like Journey Hub, for instance, is like, a pub is a fairly straightforward example, and that's why even I can find the pub at the end of my walk, because I can see the big symbol, but the other information, if we talk about some of the other map symbols, like crags always come to mind on our map. So Harvey Maps has a really good reputation for showing mountainous and rocky areas very well, actually. You and I have just come back from the National Running Show at the NEC. Good weekend it was too.
It was a long weekend, but good fun.
Long weekend, good fun. I'm sure we'll chat about that in a bit more, but a bit more detail. But the one thing that people would speak to us about is, because we had our big map wall of Ben Nevis, and it's obviously a blown up map. They're like, I love the way you guys show the crags, and they're so easy to read. And so for me, that's all part of map symbols.
Yeah.
Although it's a linear feature, it is about it's about trying to find the best way to communicate that feature to somebody. So you're right. In fact, that's why I asked you about the legend. I think because in an ideal world, the legend is just something like at the back of your book that you just flick to.
Reference.
For reference. You should, once you've decoded some of it, be able to infer at best some of the others.
The legend's just to fill in the gaps of what might be unclear.
Yeah.
But shouldn't be the sort of guide, as it were.
Shouldn't be the be all and end all. Coming back to the run show, the thing about the run show, Luke, was what I found interesting was that runners and walkers navigate at different paces, and that's a stupid thing to say. The walking is technically slower than running, at least. Although it's the same for me, I generally run at the same pace I walk. Not fast runner. And But yeah, that was an interesting point about map reading and the need for a legend. Did you pick up much of that from speaking to people at the run show? And
I think runners, especially if you're doing sort of a crazy ultra marathon, well, regardless of the distance, you're gonna want to make quick route decisions, like say orienteering. Or if there's kind of a clock, whether it's part of a race or if it's sort of self-imposed. I think if you're mid-run, you're less inclined to stop and have a long pause and big decipher of the map. You want to make your decision pretty quickly. Whereas a walker, if you're just out for a sort of a leisurely hike, it doesn't matter how long you take. It's all part of the package, I guess.
Yeah.
So I think quick decisions.
Quick decisions.
Easy symbology.
Yeah.
Aids this or should aid this. So yeah, there's a different need if you're running or walking. Definitely.
This brings me on to another point about map information, which is hierarchy of line widths. So as an example, we might use for the road network, we might give the motorway the biggest line thickness on the map down to a little track that services a telephone mast, might be a thinner line, and all the roads in between have a hierarchy. Let's say you've got a 1 to 25,000 scale map and your motorway is typically, how wide is a motorway on our maps? At that scale, 3 mil?
Yeah, 5 mil.
3 millimeters at 1 to 20. I'm putting you on the spot here, but how many meters in the real world does 3 millimeters
significantly
cover?
wider than what it is in real life.
2.5 millimeters must be 100 meters.
Yeah.
So 3 millimeters is, I say, 120 meters. The point is that a map symbol, if that was a real world feature, it would take up a lot more space on the ground than the car park actually does.
Absolutely. But they're points of interest, so we want to bring the attention to them.
Points of interest. And then so there is this balance between functionality and aesthetics. And if there's a lot going on, how do you decide where to put the symbol? Is it always the center point of the feature?
Not always. It depends the sort of density of other features of interest as well around it. You might need to space them out for clarity reasons. Sometimes the symbol is particularly for buildings.
Yeah.
Sometimes we'll move it just off so you can actually see the actual building symbology, and then the accommodation or the pub is then just to the just to
refer that this building is the
so it's kind of supplementary information. It's the building, and that's what the building is used for. Usually it's clarity that we'd space things out. We displace sort of intentionally.
It does become quite challenging, and we spoke about this in a previous episode as well about the text, and I think I spoke about this with Chris and the aesthetics of the map. But this is all linked. In fact, the whole. Now we've gone through up to episode 4, the whole thing relates back to the aesthetics. We're always trying to make it look as good as we can.
Absolutely.
Even with our photogrammetrists trying to capture it as accurately as they can, and then to you and Chris and others who are putting that information in final terms, if you like, onto the piece of paper that gets printed, it all becomes this aesthetic journey, which I'm not sure people fully appreciate the amount of effort and work that goes in.
So going back to your roads that you said that are sort of ratio-wise significantly wider on the map than they are in real life, and often you're going to have a lot of things along the roads, so buildings, pubs, cafes, accommodation, boundaries, other roads running parallel. They're all going to be, as things of interest, are going to be blown up on the map. So we need to space them out.
Yeah.
So they will be moved away from their sort of true location, but as long as the spatial relationship is consistent between all of them,
right,
then that's inferable when you're actually in the ground.
Yes.
Or on the ground rather than in the ground.
That's a cemetery. So another question, related question. We have 2 symbols for caravan on our map.
Yes.
One has a line under it. And someone asked me, why do you have 2 symbols for caravan? These are just little caravan symbols, and one There's a caravan symbol with a flat line under it. And I've worked with these symbols for a long time. I think we designed this many, many years ago when we were doing mapping, kind of a lot of coastal maps, like the Cleveland Way or Pedder's Way or something like that. And you'll know what it is.
I do. Do I need to say
quiz point?
Static caravan.
Static caravan. There we go. We could have a map symbol quiz. I'd expect 100%. But
yes,
it was really, there was a point. It was interesting that someone hadn't actually read the legend. Yeah. They were trying to infer what that line meant.
What did they think the line was?
Oh God,
I
can't actually remember. Maybe I don't remember. I think I'd be speculating. Maybe I really want to say an abandoned caravan, but I don't think that's actually true. Although abandoned caravan would be quite
caravan, not on steep ground.
Could be a neat, flat caravan. Caravan on a trailer. I don't know.
Maybe
could be anything. But that was one that I thought was misunderstood.
Yeah. Okay,
but then my point would then be that surely a misunderstood symbol is possibly a poorly written legend or a...
I think it's just a poorly designed symbol.
Poorly designed symbol.
Which is kind of good to get these feedbacks because, as you say, we stare at these all day.
Yeah.
And we will just... I don't know. Sometimes you need to take a step back and have a look at it with a fresh pair of eyes. And if someone can provide that opinion, then that's great.
My next question is... And again, we met a lot of people like this at the run show who kind of want to run further afield and want to do stuff, but are very nervous or lack confidence to read maps that put in front of them. Is there any advice you'd give to somebody when opening a map for the first time and how to read them? Is it worth, say, just having a look at the legend first, or what do you recommend?
I think just open it up, absorb it, kind of just let it sink in.
Yeah.
See what you can sort of make sense of.
See what your brain does first.
Yeah, I wouldn't look at the legend first. I would look at the actual map, work out what you think things are, and then study the legend and see sort of how correct you are or what bits you're correct on. If there's any areas that you're unsure, if it's like coastal stuff, or if it's the sort of high altitude stuff, or if it's kind of the urban like amenities. I would just say absorb it, and then it's practice. You've got to do it. You've got to push yourself out there.
Yeah.
Do it little by little, and then before you know it, you're doing significantly more than you ever could.
It is practice, because I always liken it to someone learning to drive. When you first learn to drive, even though you've been in someone else's car for so many times, it's only then you really notice the myriad of road signs and the triangles and the red ones and the blue ones and you're kind of looking around going, oh God, what is that? What should I do there? What do I do then? But the more you do it, the more you absorb it. Mm-hmm. It's exactly the same thing. Communication via symbols is ultimately what we're talking about. Different to where is the pub? Obviously, if you're driving, you can drive to the pub. Just don't have a drink. There you go. That's my public safety message. I'm going to go take us back to Birmingham now.
Okay.
We were there 2 days ago, 3 days ago, 4 days ago. Felt like every day for last week, especially with Storm Eowyn moving our departure date forward. Bonus day. What would be your key kind of take-home message from speaking to people at the run show? I'm thinking more in relation to running and maps, I suppose.
People still love them. People love planning their adventures with them. The ultra maps are really popular, so our 1 to 40,000 mini maps. People really saw the value in just having them not being precious and just sort of stuffing them in a pocket or in a rucksack or a hydration pack or whatever. And just running. So you've got these sort of route navigation decisions on the fly. But then conversely, there are also these people that had these event maps, the maps of sort of ultramarathon races that we supply maps for, such as Cape Wrath or Dragon's Back.
The really big kind of...
huge distance, events, so the map's always going to be big. And people just loved them. People wanted the maps for recce's. And also people wanted them as souvenirs. So people came up and was like, oh, Harvey's, I did Dragon's Back in I don't know, 2020, and or maybe not 2020, 2019. And,
yeah, maybe not 2020.
And I loved it. And my map's a souvenir, and people are saying, "Oh, it's as good as new." Like it basically looks like it's not been anywhere. But people have them as souvenirs, and we had people that wanted to buy. They bought. There was one gentleman who did the spine race using our Pennine Way maps, and he came and he was like, "Oh, I've lost them." He was umming and ahhing whether he wanted to buy another set just to have them. Yeah. But he was so sentimentally attached to the ones that he had because he was like, "Oh, they've kind of like done it with me. Yeah. They got me through it." And I was like, "I totally get that." Like he couldn't find them, but he was like, "I'm sure they're in the attic somewhere," or not. Whether he was going to bite the bullet and just get a fresh pair. But he loses the kind of. They're not the same ones, so it's kind of like a souvenir as well.
Nostalgia with it. It's
kind of a medal in a way.
A medal. So you think? I mean, I would agree, but so the run show differs to other shows we go to in terms of there's a lot of gadgets and gizmos and people running and wanting the map on the watch, and but you still think there's a big draw to the actual products, the actual paid physical products.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think it can be sort of parallels drawn with books and Kindles, and I think Kindles are all well and good, but books are still going well.
Yeah,
definitely. And I think maps are sort of cousins of books in a way. They're
very much in that bracket of, and as you've just alluded to, people want them as because they enjoyed using it or reading it or whatever. You read a map, so it's the same kind of thing. Why do you think the Harvey, thinking of the symbology, why do you think it lends itself well to these kind of things?
I think because our mapping, we strip out all the symbology of things you don't need and you don't want, because it's kind of too much information. It's irrelevant information, and if you're trying to navigate as quickly as you can and cover as much distance, you need to strip everything you don't need just to make the decision as easy as possible for you. Our route lines, I think, are very good for our trail / event maps. We break the route down, don't we, into really good subcategories of a route. It's not just a line
that's sort of wedged onto a map. It's we tell you what's underfoot, basically.
Yes, which then is good for your sort of prep, sort of mental and physical preparation of what's coming ahead.
I hadn't really considered that, but so I mean, long may that continue, and we'll be back at the running show next year.
It'll be good.
Come and join us there. Come and talk to us about maps. Got a few final questions.
Hit me with them.
They might be rapid.
They can be, yeah.
Favourite map symbol?
The skate park one I just made.
I can't wait to see
it.
Favourite map? Doesn't have to be a Harvey map. Any map?
Jenny Sparks' illustrative map of London. I'll show you it afterwards.
Please do.
It's very good.
I'm sure we can.
But within the Harvey sphere,
favourite Harvey map?
Lakes BM.
That's a great map. Yeah, it's really nice.
One whole big boff of map.
I did think you were going to say Exmoor because not Exmoor, Mull.
To be fair, I like that one as well.
You had Mull, as you told us when you were a student at your international cartography masters. I've got to say that wrong. International cartography masters. Where were you based doing that? Actually, we glossed over
that. Munich was like the organising team. Munich, and then it was 6-month placements. The first 6 months in Munich, and then it was Vienna, Dresden, and then Enschede. But COVID happened in that period, so the final one wasn't. But I had a good run.
It's a good run, and your Harvey Maps Mull map went to these places.
Love it. It was my first Harvey map I ever owned.
But they wondered what was on there, what that map was about.
I do like that one as well because it's like the whole island on one sheet. Which is kind of why I like the Lake District.
It's a very satisfying thing to look at.
Nice contained island.
You might have already explained this. Most creative map you've ever seen? I mean, that's a broad brush question if I can ever think of.
There's like a war map that I was shown in a lecture once, which is like, it doesn't look like a map. It looks more of like an infographic.
Oh, right.
But it is actually a map.
Yeah.
But I can't remember the name, so it's not very helpful.
That's okay. I can remember, something comes to my mind. I was in Italy once, and there was a bus stop, and on this bus stop was a poster for a concert or something, and it was some part of Italy. It was an Italian map which had been tweaked and edited so that the face of this musician was in it. It was absolutely fantastic. Okay. Took a photo of it.
Nice.
I don't suppose it has a name per se, but I always think that was a very creative use of maps in terms of what they were. I think decoding that was interesting. Final question.
Yeah.
If you could design a new map symbol, what would it be for?
I would differentiate pubs and have like a good, like cozy, like ale country pub.
Love it. Okay.
So I'd have maybe I'd make the pint glass like a nice amber.
You'd have a little fire symbol behind it.
Yeah, like a good dark bit. You'd have a lager pub and an ale pub, and you'd have like different shades for the pint glass.
I love it. Maybe we'll get onto that at HARVEY Maps, and your Lake District map will be improved for everyone. Luke, thanks very much.
Thank you.
It's been good to talk to you about symbols.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much for joining us on this episode of Unfolded. It's the podcast from HARVEY Maps, in case you hadn't figured that one out already. If you'd like to subscribe, please do, and keep an eye out for future episodes.